Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. In our first story, we've got a classic case of corporate incompetence meeting malicious compliance. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Don't mess with IT. Not too far back in my career, I was working at a lighting design company. Makes lighting fixtures for richer people, costs a lot of money. Well, this company has been pen and paper for inventory and work orders, etc., and are trying to join the digital age. Well, in comes me, college kid with a computer science degree and no experience. They say, we'll give you a raise while working our technical aspects and give you more work time. I had a wedding to pay for, so more money and time is a huge thing at this point in life. So I needed a decent PC to run the 3D modeling software, internet, the inventory system, and a lot of time to put all the different models into a database. They got me a cheap PC, poor internet connection, had no inventory system, and wanted a from-the-ground-up full database in 6 months with no issues. They said they'd check monthly on my progress to grade my tenacity. Now I go to work. I get the models built and into a file type to be transferred to a database, start scouting different servers I could use for this, cost effectiveness, or I could write my own program as a basic prototype to just get it done. It's been hell to work with the bosses as they keep using the cheapest trial software, and every time they do, it ends up with me having to start from scratch yet again because they won't pay for a good system, swearing that they can easily save money. Finally, I have about 90% of them file done, and it's 2 weeks from the deadline, Christmas time, and final exams for my certs. Well, boss number 2 calls and tells me they forgot to check for the last 5 months and begins screaming how I was incompetent for not even having half of them done. I was bewildered. He says to check Form A2 for the list of pieces they wanted done. They never sent me that list. It was in no email, not in the team file share, nothing. He says, here's the file. Why didn't you say anything sooner? Get it done, I don't care what it takes. By the way, with this terrible performance, you're not getting a raise. How was I supposed to know of a form that never existed? I look at the file. It took 5 months to translate and store 300 of these files. With that form, he added another 1,300-ish. I was pissed. Cue the malicious compliance. They told me work from home and as long as it takes, so I made a macro with my PC and set it up to fill out those files, but the macro speed was limited by Google Sheets loading time. May have purposely slowed it down, who knows? So it was slightly slower than hand typing, but required no input from me. I was free to spend my time playing games, watching TV, etc. Well, about a weekend, and I get a call about me never clocking out for work. I told him to look at the files. Every time a file was added, it was clocked in the system down to the second. Never had I heard a man so pissed about losing that much in wages. What pushed him over the edge was me telling him the money spent paying me for doing this was more than just giving me good software. But I did what it took to get it done. The paycheck was great, the time off was great, and they still don't know how a macro works. In most companies, very few people truly understand how deeply everything depends on an understaffed and overworked squad of wizards toiling away in a forgotten closet somewhere. If you invoke their ire, they don't need to turn their wizardry against you. They just need to stop performing miracles. You'll know when they do. And our second story. If you don't like it, you can leave. When I was in school, about 14 years old, we got a new arts teacher. Our previous one was amazing. She used to be a famous painter in our state that wanted to teach in her free time and paint just for pleasure. She taught us the basic techniques while encouraging us to create and experiment. She also implemented an arts fair in our school, kind of like a science fair. We had one big theme, and each grade had a sub-theme that would fit. The students used to split in groups and came up with an idea that would use some of the material in our curriculum, but we still had a lot of freedom to create. We would have to clear it with her, and she helped us with ideas, materials, guidance. The fair had been going for years, and it was one that parents actually liked to attend, going back to it even after their kids already left the school. It's important to note that the school was really not a big one. My grade was the last one that was taught there, and we only had 20 to 30 students per grade. So we had all classes together, and we all knew each other well. Awesome teacher's health wasn't that good anymore, and she retired. Comes new teacher that from the get-go seemed to be intimidated and full of hatred for our previous teacher. She would talk badly about our previous teacher's work, say that what we learned was useless, that everything we were doing was bad and wrong since we never were taught any better, etc., etc. We already didn't like her, but it was our last year there and we weren't confrontational. Then time for arts fair comes up. We're excited. Our whole theme is art from our country, and each grade got specific states. The one my grade got has a really rich culture with characteristic clothes, dances, etc. We were excited and started organizing ourselves. Then, new teacher tells us that none of that's going to be presented. She wants us to split in groups of twos and make sort of a painting using paper mache and trapping objects of that state in it. We were like, but we want to present the dance. We already talked with someone who has the clothes for us to borrow to present in a living statue. We want to do more. And she went on this rant about how our old teacher used to let us do anything, but we were not following the curriculum and it was ridiculous, that she knew what was best for us and we were all brats, that the old teacher made the art fair become a laughing matter and she would not have it. We tried presenting our reasons. We said that having over 10 of the exact same thing was not going to represent the culture of the state. It'd be boring to look at, and that we didn't mind doing it if we could also do more. She got angrier and angrier with us trying to talk to her, so she said, "This is my class, and if you don't like it, you can leave." So of course we left. All of us just got up and left. We went straight to our principal's office. That was tiny. She agreed to see us, and it was a mess. All of us teenagers feeling that we were not being treated fairly, complaining about our teacher all at once. Our teacher finally showed up, crying. Our principal asked us to wait outside of her office. Finally, 3 of us were invited back inside where our version was asked. The teacher was still there, and we explained what happened and what we wanted with her crying in the corner and sobbing all the time. I'm glad to say that none of us let that make us back away, and the principal didn't allow it either. We reached a compromise. We would make sure to have at least 5 of those hideous paintings she wanted, but we'd still be allowed to do everything else we wanted. The fair itself was horrible. Our class was the only one allowed to do anything different, so every room just had things hanging on the wall, all looking similar to each other. Ours had typical food from that state for people to snack on, dance presentation every 30 minutes, people doing living statues with the full clothing we got from a cultural center, a TV showing short movies from artists of that state, and a bunch of students wearing some sort of attire from there with a ton of information about the state to tell visitors. Plus 5 of those paintings in a corner that no one paid attention to. It didn't take 2 more years for the art fair to stop happening since it didn't get attendance from the public anymore, and the parents complained about the waste of time plus the waste of money the school had hosting it. I can't imagine. It must be hard to fit into someone else's shoes, but the way she went about it was completely wrong. She wasn't trying to make her own name as a teacher. She was trying to destroy someone else's name instead. I hope she found her own style and managed to care for her students more than herself. And our next story. When the key's too small, make it a spectacle. My revenge on the key stick punishment. I used to be the overnight cashier at a large grocery chain that was open 24 hours. I worked 5 nights a week with the weekends off. The cigarettes were kept behind the service desk, which had a locked half door that had to be unlocked in order to access the area. The key to unlock the door was on a regular key ring, and I would keep it in my pocket all night because I had to get cigarettes for customers. In the mornings, I would drop the key ring off in the office, and it would be waiting for me when I came back into work the next night. There was another cashier who worked the 2 overnights during the weekend. He developed a habit of taking the key ring home with him. I would end up having to jump over the counter to get into the area, and the daytime employees were pretty annoyed with having to leave the door unlocked all day. After the weekend cashier did this for a month straight, a manager ended up putting the key on one of those large sticks that are often used in gas stations for restroom keys. I felt like a fool having to carry around a big restroom key stick when I was not the one who couldn't remember to leave the key ring in the office when I got off work every day. I asked my manager why I had to suffer the punishment of another employee's incompetence, and the manager just explained how we have to make sure the key doesn't accidentally get misplaced or taken home again, and the giant stick is a way to accomplish that. That night, I purchased a large padlock. I used the padlock to lock the key stick to the front of a shopping cart. I then made large signs on poster board that said key cart and put it on both sides of the cart. To open the door, the whole cart had to be rolled up to the door close enough to get the key into the keyhole. It was a bit of a spectacle and a pain in the butt to do. The next night, when I came into work, my manager was pretty irritated about the key cart. I told him I was just being proactive and that someone could still take the key home, even on the stick, but no one would be able to take the key home if it's attached to an entire cart. It stayed like that for another day, and then it was back to its original key ring that I could put in my pocket. This story's absolutely genius. OP's key card solution's the kind of petty but effective protest that deserves a standing ovation. It's ridiculous that the manager thought strapping the key to a giant stick would solve anything other than making the overnight cashier's life unnecessarily difficult. What really cracks me up is imagining the manager's reaction when faced with the key card. They must have realized how absurd the stick idea was when it escalated to such a ridiculous level. Sometimes you gotta fight nonsense with nonsense. And this was a master class in just that. And our last story. The pool pirate next door and how we shut him down. When we moved into our new house that summer, the biggest selling point was the backyard pool. My siblings and I were thrilled, and we wasted no time taking advantage of it on the first hot day. Everything was going great until I noticed something strange. I turned my head, and there, walking casually around our yard like he owned the place, was our neighbor. He strolled past our pool, heading straight for the fire pit in the back. I'd only seen this guy once when we first moved in, and now he was just casually trespassing. I stared at him, feeling uneasy. The weirdest part, there was a gate in the fence that separated our properties. He must have come through it. Instead of acknowledging that he was creeping around our yard uninvited, he just smiled and waved at us like this was totally normal. A week later, things escalated in a way I never expected. We came home one afternoon to find our pool already in use, except it wasn't us in the water, it was him with his friends in our pool. I was livid. This man, a man we'd barely spoken to, was splashing around in our pool like it was his personal vacation home. His friends were laughing, drinking beers, and just making themselves at home. I stormed inside, calling for my parents. When they saw what was happening, my dad nearly lost it. The very next day, my parents put a heavy-duty lock on our side of the fence gate so that he could never get into our backyard again. A few days later, the neighbor tried to get in. He walked up to the gate, grabbed the handle, and found it locked. He shook it, pulled on it, even rattled it like some burglar. Then he realized he was locked out. And for some reason, he was actually pissed off about it. Later, we found out why he felt so entitled. Apparently, the previous owners of our house were his best friends. For years, he had free reign over the backyard, the pool, the fire pit, everything. He treated it like a second home because they had let him. But the thing was, we weren't those people. We'd never met him before, never invited him over, and definitely never told him he could keep using our pool like some sort of resort amenity. I mean, who the hell assumes they still have access to someone else's house after they move out? After he realized his free backyard privileges were revoked, he sulked for weeks. Every time we saw him, he gave us dirty looks, but we didn't care. Eventually, he stopped trying to sneak in. That winter, my parents put in an even taller, more secure fence. No gates, no access, no way in. The next summer, we enjoyed our pool without a single unwanted guest. It's honestly hilarious that he was offended when he found the gate locked. Like, sir, this is not a public facility. Just because the old owners let you mooch off them doesn't mean you get grandfathered into a lifetime pool membership. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.